Just doing some test drive here. Me, Mako, and Blueski. Hi, buddy. And we're driving about 4 hours today, going to pick Sarah up from the airport. So we're gonna see what we get for miles per gallon on the trip. I can't really show you guys how well it rides, but it does ride very, very smoothly. Probably one of the smoothest vehicles I've ever been in. Granted, I haven't been in like a Lexus or anything. This truck actually does have a lot more power than you'd think. The acceleration's very nice, and it feels like it is like ballsy for a small truck anyways. And you can also switch it to sport mode. Right now it's just in regular drive, but you can click on the drive button and change it to sport mode, and that just makes it rev up a little bit higher. It normally sits around like 25 RPMs in this mode. I do like that mode for when I'm late for work. I can zoom around cars and, you know, basically speed until I get to work so I don't get fired. A couple of things that I will talk about while I'm driving here. First thing is the seat. The seat is extremely comfortable. Honestly, probably one of the more comfortable seats I've ever sat in, especially for the driver. I haven't sat in the passenger seat yet, but I would assume it's the same. And I would also assume that the back seats probably aren't as comfortable, but I don't care. I don't ride back there. We do have heated seats in the black edition that I've got here, but no air-conditioned seats. The seats are powered. The driver's seat has quite a few more options, like lumbar support and all that business, a little bit more than the passenger seat. The steering wheel is heated. You just pull this little knob here and it turns on pretty quick. One feature that I do really enjoy is the lane keep assist. So I'm just driving down the road here, and if I get close to the lines on either side, the steering wheel does start to turn the opposite direction, so just keeping me in my lane, which is very helpful, especially after like long nights at work or long days at work. When you're really tired in the morning, you drift off a little bit, and it's not like a super aggressive turning of the wheel, like it's dangerous. It just slightly moves you back over. It's very windy today, and the lane keep assist is really helpful for that. So otherwise you have to constantly correct yourself, but this is pretty helpful with keeping you inside your lane. This truck has the auto cruise control, and that is the cruise control where when you are approaching a vehicle with the cruise control turned on, it'll sense the vehicle and then it'll automatically slow down. And then when the vehicle is no longer in your way, it'll go back up to your normal speed that you have set. I honestly don't really use cruise control. I'm mostly driving in town, but maybe I'll try it out today since I'm switching it up and actually going on the interstate. Overall, the vehicle does handle very well. Like I said, it's an extremely windy day today, so it's a little bit more difficult, and it is a smaller truck, so it gets pushed around a little bit. This is the black edition, so it's got the upgraded sound system, and I believe it's like 8 speakers and 1 subwoofer, something like that. And some people do complain about the quality of it, but I think it's really nice. I don't know if my standards aren't as high, or they're like big music or speaker junkies or whatever, but I think it's really nice. It cranks the Morgan Wallen, and that's all you really need. The bass with that extra subwoofer is actually really nice. I do have it turned up a little bit on the sound system on the screen. I just turned the bass up a little bit. Also turned up the treble, and it seems like it's really good quality sound. Good enough for me anyways, and I'm sure it's good enough for most people. I can't really show you guys an example today as it's actually pretty sunny, so there's no snow, but this thing is an absolute beast in the snow. It handles very, very well. You're obviously not going to be pulling your buddy out of a ditch with it because, you know, it's a little truck, but it handles itself very well. There's been many times just going through town when it's really icy and you see cars or sometimes trucks that only have 2-wheel drive. They're just sitting there spinning out at a stop sign. or trying to go up a smaller hill and they just can't make it up, so they end up stalling out on the side of the road, and you just quickly drive around them and get on with your day. But overall, handles very well. And there are a couple of different settings with the traction control. You can move between just normal, then you got snow, mud, and then sand. I've only used the snow so far, as I haven't gone through mud or sand, but I have noticed a difference that it does handle even nicer when you switch to the snow traction control for when you're in the snow. A safety feature that the Honda Ridgeline has is the automatic braking. The truck has a sensor in the front. It can sense a vehicle or another object in front of you, and it automatically hits the brakes, slows down the vehicle so you're not crashing into it. This is a great safety feature. I'm sure it prevents many crashes, but one thing that I don't like about it is when a vehicle pulls out right in front of you and you want to, you know, ride their ass to let them know that they fucked up. You can't do that because it slows down your truck too much, and you know, they just don't get the point. So that's the only drawback of that. But overall, it's nice. Comparing this truck to a full-size truck such as a Silverado, which I used to have a Silverado, was a 21 1500. This thing is so much easier to park. And parking in parking ramps or just like a hospital parking lot, so much easier. You're not as worried about door dings because the vehicle is more narrow, and you don't have to back into the parking spot every single time. And this truck is quite a bit shorter than a full-size truck, so when you're driving down the road, weaving in between cars, it's a little bit easier. The back seat in the Ridgeline is actually pretty roomy. I've got the seats folded up right now, and it is big enough to hold a laying down Great Dane and a Blue Bear. So pretty sizable, I would say. I just got to the airport to pick up Sarah, so I did drive for about 2 hours, and I ended up driving 141.1 miles. And I'm gonna make a few excuses before I show you guys the miles per gallon, because it's absolutely horrendous. My first excuse is that I was driving into headwinds. They're like 30 to 40 miles per hour, so that was horrible, really not helping the miles per gallon. And then the second excuse is I was driving 85 to 92 miles an hour because I was running late. So here's what I got for miles per gallon. 16.9, which is absolutely horrible. I've never even seen this truck get that bad of gas mileage, besides for when I was towing a U-Haul from Florida to Nebraska. But this is not typical. I'm going to reset the trip for the way back. Maybe I'll drive a little bit less like a madman, and I will be with the wind now. So also not a great test. Need just a regular day to do the test, but we'll see what we get for gas mileage on the way back. We're just a couple of miles from home now, so we went about another 140 miles, and the gas mileage still was not impressive whatsoever. It ended up being 19 miles per gallon, which is pretty terrible for a mid-size truck. And I'm just throwing in another 16.8 gallons. I did expect to get like 24, 25, 26 miles per gallon. So pretty disappointed with this, just being honest. But what do you do?